What is up, all you individuals out there? It's me, full-time anime man, and I have finally, may have possibly found a new solution to make these videos much shorter. You see, I think that the best way to leave a story off is to a climactic conclusion. Like, you tell a little bit of the story here, and just when you think you're about to get into something juicy, you stop right there. And then you do the next part, but later on. It may not make sense now, but I'm pretty sure you guys already see it by the time in this video, where it is very short now. I finally figured it out. Here we go. We're going to do this. I will say hashtag bless once I am done with the chapter. Hope you all enjoy. Where we last left off, Izuku had just received his acceptance letter into UA, but after that, Izuku had received a mysterious call. His father, who had been claimed dead for the past 10 years. We pick up from there. Dad? Yes, son. It's me. Izuku had a hard time finding the right words, and after a minute of not saying anything, Hasashi said, "Son, are you still there?" Yeah, I am, but how are you still alive? The police said that they found your body in the crash. Well, son, do you remember that night I gave you that medicine? Well, it was a bit of a blur because I was still sleepy, but I remember bits and pieces of it. Well, son, that wasn't medicine. It was a sort of contagion serum designed to be a weaponized virus. What? Said Izuku. Why would you inject me with that? A moment of silence brushes by, and Hasashi spoke. I'm sorry, son. The company that I worked with made it and wanted to weaponize it and potentially create a pandemic that could be devastating to all mankind. This virus was dangerous, so I made a few changes to it so that it only works on people in our bloodline that has our DNA. Izuku then said, "And so you infected me with this virus?" Yes, son, and I'm sorry, but technically it's not a virus anymore because it only affects people that is not in, my bloodline. But son, please, I need your help. Well, what do you need? I need you to come to New York City in America. Izuku nearly dropped the phone in bewilderment, but he was able to catch it and said, "Wait, how did you get in America?" I'm sorry, son. I have to go. I think they're on to me. Do you still have that action figure of All Might I gave you that day? Well, yeah, but what does that... Izuku was interrupted by his dad. Go get it, break it open. There is a airplane ticket inside of it. Meet me in New York City tomorrow. I have to go. Goodbye. Wait, Dad, what about... The line cuts before Izuku could finish his sentence. Mom. As Izuku stands there morally confused, wondering how his father survived the plane crash. This has to be some sort of prank, said Izuku. Hold on. He rushes into his room, and he opens the closet, and pulls out the All Might action figure that his father gave him on the day he supposedly had died. Taking a closer look into the action figure, he notices that there is a rolled-up piece of paper wedged between it. It hurt Izuku to do this, but in order to prove his suspicions right, he had to rip apart the action figure, and inside its torso was indeed a rolled-up plane ticket that was dressed for tomorrow morning. The young boy was still processing everything that was still going on. Obviously, this proves that this was no joke. Hasashi was still alive somehow, and at that moment, 1,000 questions filled Izuku's mind at that moment. The common who, what, when, where, how, and why. So many questions, but with so little time. Izuku acted fast. Running back to the phone, he called Bakugo. After a few rings, Come on, Kachan, pick up the phone. Bakugo picks up, but he was just about to lay his head down to sleep. What is it, Izuku? Kachan, listen, we need to talk. Can you meet me right now? Can it wait until the morning, or can you just tell me over the phone? It's too late. No, we need to talk in person right now. Meet me at the playground ASAP. Izuku hangs up the phone and heads towards the door. As he runs, he thinks to himself, I don't know what's going on, but I need to deal with the matter right now. How is my dad still alive? Why did he turn me into this? And why is he now in America? This is all so sudden. But for now, I need to tell someone about what's going on. Someone that I trust. A minute later, the young boy arrived at the playground. Bakugo, he was still waiting for him to arrive. After a few minutes, he sees him walking in the distance. Kachan! He runs towards him, but cracks the ground from underneath him. Come on, try to control that. Be careful, said Izuku. The two boys then meet, and Bakugo says, Alright, I'm here. Now what is it? Kachan, my dad is still alive. What? I know, it's crazy, right? After you left, he called me and told me to come and meet him in New York City in America. But wait, I thought your dad died in a jet crash 10 years ago. Yeah, well, I thought that too, but apparently somehow he survived. And apparently, he bought a ticket for me 10 years ago that was dated for tomorrow morning. He had this all planned out, and I'm not entirely sure how he did it, but my dad was a scientist after all, but this is something completely different. Bakugo says, So, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna go. What? Look, if it's true that my dad is still alive and for some reason he didn't contact me after 10 years, he must be in trouble or something. I have to help him. Well, in that case, let me go with you. No, it could be too risky. Also, there's another reason why I wanted you to come here. What would that be? If anything were to happen to me while I was in New York City, I want you to look after my mom. Can you do that for me? Izuku, don't talk like that. Can you promise me that you'll look after her? Bakugo stops and thinks for a second. Okay, I will look after her, but do you at least know what you're going up against in New York? No, he didn't go into much details, but I could tell that he does need my help. Maybe once the threat is neutralized, I can bring him back home. I don't know. I won't get my hopes up. The young boy then had a moment of silence and said, Izuku... No. And Izuku speaks. Listen, Kachan, thanks for being a good friend. Again, don't talk like that, said Bakugo. You better make it back home. Izuku smiles and says, I will. I'll see you when I get back. The two boys then shake hands and Izuku runs off, leaving Bakugo alone. It's the next day, and things only get more and more confusing. From when Izuku arrived at the airport, he was asked for a passport to go to America. Izuku had forgotten to get one, but the woman then that was assisting him looked into the system and saw that there was already a passport for him, planned for 10 years. Izuku was on the plane, ready to go to New York, but even more confused. Dad, what are you planning? Before that, he did not tell his mom where he was going. Izuku thought that she wasn't going to allow him to leave, so instead he left her a note telling him that he had to go somewhere and that he will be back. Oh man, he didn't tell her. Oh man, said Izuku, he didn't tell me where to meet him in New York or anything. What am I going to do? Man, this is a bad idea. What was I thinking? Izuku smacks himself in the head. I guess all I can do is, when I get there, is just walk around or something. I don't know. After a few hours would pass, and Izuku was in America of New York City. After a while, Izuku would make his way downtown, taking in the scenery. He was amazed of all the things that was on the streets: street performers, dancers, food trucks, and friendly faces everywhere, and most of the people that don't want to be approached by these certain people, advertisers. But Izuku put that aside, and he was more taken by the size of the buildings. They were basically skyscrapers that could reach the height of space. But there was one building in particular that caught Izuku's attention, the tallest building that he saw in New York City so far. A building that had the name Gentech on the front of it. Izuku wasn't sure what it was, but he hated this building with a burning passion. What's with all the security? Is it really necessary for them to carry these big guns around? Izuku just walks away into a more crowded area. While Izuku came across a clothing store, he spotted a nice jacket in the window. He got closer and placed his hands against the glass and started admiring the jacket. This jacket was made out of leather, and the color of it was jet black, and it had a metallic shine to it. It had two white stripes on each elbow side of the jacket, and it had a sort of dragons in the shape of a heart on the back of it. He looks down at the price and says, "Oh wow, that's a very expensive jacket." Well, so much for bringing the souvenir back. While he was still admiring the jacket, Izuku heard the familiar voice right behind him. "It's a nice jacket, isn't it?" Izuku's eyes widen as he comes to a realization of whose voice that belongs to. He slowly looks, he slowly turns around to a man wearing a gray hoodie, looking down to the ground. Izuku could not see his face, but he knew who it was. Dad.